Hello and welcome to the Tracer Franchising Podcast, where I interview great franchisees and the franchisors behind some great systems. My name's Josh Emison, and today we're talking to Susan Banner about CertaPro Painters. They're probably, if not the oldest, one of the oldest painting franchises in the United States, and they have some really big franchisees. So I'm excited to talk to you today, Susan.
Excellent. I'm very excited as well.
All right, perfect. So let's just start with you. And it's kind of interesting. You said you jumped in about 6 years ago, and before that was your husband. So we
Yes,
would just love to hear backgrounds on you and your husband, and how you guys chose to get into franchising and chose this franchise.
absolutely. Absolutely. So, my husband actually started the franchise 20 years ago. He was a sales and marketing executive for Siemens Power Generation. He actually is a chemical engineer by trade at Lehigh University, which is actually where we met at Lehigh University. He then went on to get his MBA at Rutgers, was more or less in the corporate world for about 10 to 15 years prior to buying the franchise. He came to a point in his career where, uh, very technical background, but at the same time, he's also very much a sales and marketing person. But his job was mergers and acquisitions, and he was having to open and close power plants throughout the country, which required a lot of moving. I also had a job as well as a finance executive at Merck, a large pharmaceutical company, and we had decided we wanted to raise our family close to family in Doylestown, Pennsylvania, and we did not want that life of moving continually. And franchising was a way to stay local, start your own business, and at the same time, kind of have kind of a cookbook that helped increase the likelihood of success. After I was actually an economics major at Lehigh and went on to get my MBA at New York University Stern School of Business. So I also had a business and accounting background. He has a, sales and marketing and business background as well. So it really suited us to own a company. And again, a franchise gave us an opportunity to increase that likelihood of success by following the cookbook and getting a great start that way.
Yeah. So two very, business savvy people. And it's cool. You almost have like different skills, right? So like you can be out selling and marketing, and you can be like making sure everything's, going according to plan.
Yeah,
So that's a kind of a cool team. Um, were you helping before you like made the full switch over 6 years ago?
very sporadically. I would once in a while look through our finances and look through the books and kind of help out sort of as an auditor, uh, but not on a full-time basis. I really was working full-time, leading a large group of financial professionals at Merck. I traveled. We had manufacturing sites overseas. So I was very, very busy in my job and I
Yeah.
didn't have a lot of time. It's
Okay.
mostly
Gotcha.
him. Yeah, yeah,
So
sorry.
what made you decide to jump in then?
So my husband had been trying for years to get me to come into the business. He tried and tried and tried. I really didn't want to put too many eggs in one basket by both of us being in the business. I thought it was more secure if I kind of was, in a different job. I also was kind of biding my time. I wanted to take a package. I wanted to get to a point where I could, have, health insurance for life. You get that once you're at Merck for a certain number of years. So I wanted to put the time in. And once I was able to get a package, as soon as it was available, I was gone. And I joined him in the business. And he's very, he's the quintessential salesperson, Martin. He is competitive. He loves people. And I was a lot more bookish. And I was on the CPA side. I mean, I had a lot of the leadership skills at Merck that I developed there as well, but it was a really good offset because he doesn't like doing all of the finance and accounting work and he
Yeah.
doesn't like operations. He likes selling. So he really got to do the things he loved in the franchise when I came on, and I got to do the things I loved. So it was really a great fit.
Yeah, very cool. And then was there a like a big shift in how you did things, or like even the growth of the company when you came on?
There was, actually,
Yeah.
yeah. He within my first 2 years, we doubled in size. Now so now I will say I also came aboard during COVID. And for us, for our franchise, COVID was actually spectacular, right? So we're a painting franchise. We had folks sitting around in their homes, not being able to leave their homes. We were allowed as a company, Pennsylvania gave us legitimacy during COVID to be able to go into people's homes still and paint them and do our work. Of course, we had safety precautions in place and all of that kind of thing. But for us, COVID was a great help. Um, we had again like the whole residential business sort of exploding because folks were sitting around and wanted to spruce up their offices and were spending so much more times in their homes. So we did see a blip from that, and I did come in right as COVID was starting. So that was sort of a help. And then I think also just the way we, he was, my husband was so, and his name's Martin, was so focused on sales and sales growth that he didn't have to worry about anything else. And, I was kind of sort of overseeing everything in the company, sales and production and finance, but it allowed him to really focus on increasing those bookings.
Yeah, sounds like a
Yeah.
great, again, a great pairing. Because you're not both
y-
out selling. Somebody's got to be managing the business.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves. What made you in the first place choose CertaPro Painters? So 20 years ago.
So we did actually make that choice together. So even though I was at Merck, I'm actually 51% owner for a women's owned business. And we decided at the time to kind of set it up that way. I would say the one of the big things was a low cost of entry. We also just loved the people. So it, I feel like our franchise is unique because there is just a feeling of camaraderie between the franchisor, between franchisees. Everyone wants to see their brand succeed. And when we all work together, we see that brand being elevated. So right off the bat, we loved all the opportunities for training and development. The headquarters was located right in our backyard. We were very fortunate. There are 330 franchises across the country, and ours is an hour from. Our headquarters are in Audubon, Pennsylvania. We're an hour from there, so we have a really beautiful corporate headquarters that we use for training and development. So that opportunity was, super close to us, which we loved. So that was really it. I mean, the main things were the people and the low cost of entry. We also believe that there was a lot of opportunity for market share. The market share had been only maybe 3%. It's doubled since we've bought the franchise. There's still, though, so much more opportunity in terms of market share. The market's very fragmented. And we felt like there was just a lot of room for growth when we initially bought it. Yeah.
Okay, and
Mhm.
you started with one territory,
We started with one. Yep.
and you still have one, or
So,
have you grown added on to it?
so now we have three. We started
Three
with
territories.
one, and we started with Doylestown. We added a second, a new town, and then we had a third, which is Yardley. I don't know how much, folks
Yeah,
are
I'm not
probably
not too not too
locally. Yeah.
familiar.
Yeah.
But I do
So
love.
we expanded, yeah, threefold. That's on the residential side. So the way the franchise works is if you are painting a residence, you must own the zip code where that painting is taking place. Okay, so residentially, you are limited to the zip codes you purchased, and those are the three contiguous territories that we have for the residential side. Commercially is a different story. There are large commercial accounts that the franchise helps us to develop and land. We also develop large commercial accounts on our own. We can paint anywhere in the country. We tend to paint mostly we go as far as almost Ohio to the west. We go all the way to the shore line in New Jersey. We go into New York. We go into Baltimore. So we are able to paint anywhere in the country, but we're kind of in the tri-state area primarily for commercial work. So it's
Yeah,
very, very different.
very cool. Do you ever, like, end up bidding against other CertaPro when you're doing
We do.
commercial?
We
Oh,
do.
really? Does that ever cause
Yes.
issues, or it's just kinda, you know.
Um, it doesn't cause issues. I think everybody respects the whole idea of relationships and, those commercial painting relationships are built over time. And you're more building a relationship with a person than you are with the brand on a commercial side. So, we don't share as much of our tactics when we are talking commercial painting as we do when we're talking residential painting. Residential is everybody's, rah rah for their franchisee that's next door. Commercial is a little bit different.
Yeah,
But it's not adversarial in any way. It's still a very positive thing, but there is competition for sure.
sure. And I mean, there's probably in that area that you just described, there's probably, like, a million buildings that
Yeah.
in the commercial space, you know? It's not
Oh my
like,
gosh. Yeah,
Susan's
exactly.
not gonna go paint a million
No,
buildings,
no, no. Like, so
you
right
know?
now we're not at all. We're painting CVS's, we're painting Planet Fitnesses. In the past, we've painted Targets and Walmarts and TD Banks and, Ross Dress for Lesses and DSWs, and we paint healthcare facilities and we paint HOAs. We paint. There's so much opportunity in the commercial space that you know there's quite a lot out there. That's really where our growth has happened. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, and
Yeah.
so, we got a bit of a background, but maybe people who aren't familiar with CertaPro, because I think y'all do it a little bit differently than a lot of other painters, painting franchises. Could you just explain what CertaPro is and kinda like a breakdown, high level of the business model?
Sure, absolutely. So we are a residential and commercial painting and wall covering company. So we primarily focus on the commercial sides into specific segments. So we'll work for general contractors. We'll work with our national accounts team in as who's part of CertaPro, who kind of have national accounts that they can direct our way. Um, so we do target certain segments on the commercial side that we want to be able to paint in, but we paint interiors commercially. We paint exteriors. We do light carpentry work. So it all starts really with sales and estimating. A lot of what we do is we estimate, right? So a lot of painters, there'll be a $100,000 warehouse to paint. For a painter to go in and be able to estimate how much paint, how much time, you know, come up with a cost is a difficult thing. So what we do well is estimating and developing relationships with those customers, right? And then we also are very good at recruiting crews, hiring painters, understanding the very specifics about painting products, especially in the commercial world. What do you need when you're painting metal? When you're painting concrete, when you're painting a floor, when you're painting a wall. So it's really like I think a specialty in understanding the products, understanding the market, how we get somebody to pick up a phone and call us and say, "Come give me an estimate." When we go and give the estimate, how do we then land the job? How do we involve our sales team to make sure that that customer says yes to our estimate? We do that on the commercial side, and then we also do it on the residential side. So it's pretty much the same model for residential. We do interior and exterior house painting. It is a little bit different. Our painting crews have more different sort of specialties. When we send in crews into someone's home, it's very different than when you're sending them into an empty warehouse. But our crews are very communicative with our customers. We do things like ensure that that our colors are confirmed, that we offer free color consulting, so we're sure our customers are happy with the colors that they're picking. We're very conscious of things like pets and dogs, and a lot of what we do is certainty. We show up when we say we're going to show up. We leave when we say we're going to leave. A lot of painters, they're painting all day and they're trying to answer their phone and get to a house to estimate the cost of a job at night. And it's hard. It's very, very hard to do. So we bring that estimating sales, we bring a quality control perspective as well. And it's sort of like a professional painting experience, as opposed to, you know, not really knowing what you're going to get. We offer a warranty, which is also very rare in the industry. We offer a 2-year warranty.
Mm,
Uh, we have, and that's on our workmanship. We use Sherwin-Williams paints. They, you know, offer their own set of warranties on the P, which is also wonderful. Things like Google reviews. We have close to 600 Google reviews. So we can provide references very easily because we have so many happy customers who are, they have a 4.9 Google review rating. So, when folks ask for references, we usually say, you can just Google us. You'll see all kinds of terrific comments. Um, and then I would say lastly, like our painters, they take pride in their work. They want their work to look great when they're done. They want the customers to be happy, and so do we. And that's also a little more rare in our industry is to find that person who really does want to make sure the
yeah.
job is looking terrific.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of technical knowledge, and I didn't realize this. I worked a little bit with a painting franchise a few years ago, and how like the science behind paint.
Yeah.
There's just so much. And if you don't know, you can make their own recommendation. And I imagine, especially someone's home, it's not that big. You got to go and repaint their living room, but you're repainting a Walmart, right? Or these giant
Oh, yeah.
organizations. Like that's a big deal. you know?
It's so true, Josh, it really is, it's so true, like, even like a residential house, like, most siding is vinyl or wood. Sometimes we get metal siding, right? So if you have to paint metal siding, you have to know what you're doing. You need to
Yeah, and that's
use
I mean, that I didn't even think about, like,
yeah,
the exterior because there's so many different exteriors of homes and, you're going
yes.
across state lines, so, like, you're thinking about the weather, in the different
Yeah,
states. Yeah, okay.
absolutely.
And then,
Yeah, yeah,
you're really good at estimating, which I'm sure, I'd rather have someone who I know is gonna be, like, give me the right cost and give me a cost and
yeah.
then halfway through double it, right? That'd be super
No,
frustrating.
yeah, no, no, no. Yeah, we never do that. There's a lot of consistency and everyone, we signed there's a set signed contract that's wonderful. It's part of the platform in CertaPro that gives us this tool to do the estimating, like number of coats, exact spaces that are going to be painted, photos, all that kind of stuff. So our contracts are very detailed. You know exactly what you're paying for.
Very
Exactly.
cool. And then your crews, you say you have are they
Mhm.
do they work for you or are they subcontractors?
We do both.
Oh, okay.
We have some direct employees and we have some subcontractors. A lot of our subcontractors do primarily or only work for us. Where they'll be, it's a pay model that we use for subcontractors, but often they only are doing our jobs type thing.
Yeah.
But we have direct painters as well.
Oh,
So um, yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah, we
That's
have both.
so
We
it's like
have
the
about
franchise model lets you be flexible is what you're saying essentially.
exactly. It
Yeah.
does. It does. And it does sort of foster a partnership when your crew is a subcontractor because the way we share, we sort of share the profit together and we kind of both have skin in the game, which is nice. We have direct painters. Some folks do want direct painters. We are able to accommodate that because um, that works as well for us. So uh I would say overall, I think right now we have about 100 painters.
Holy cow. Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
very cool. All right. So and then let's move now we know kind of what it does. Let's move into the support and training. Um,
Mhm.
how was training? And I know it was, 20 years ago, but I don't know if you went through training 6 years ago when you got more involved.
Yeah, I
How's
did.
the ongoing training? Like what does that side
Yes.
of the franchise look like?
So it's fabulous. We have an annual conference every year, and all franchisees are strongly encouraged to go. We make it a point to go every year, and we bring as many of our team as we can there. It's a great opportunity. It's probably the best learning opportunity of all that the franchisor offers to us. Uh, it switches. It's held East Coast, West Coast every other year. It's typically in January. It's typically a week long. So there's just an immense amount of training material that gets distributed at that annual conference. But there's also, there's this, we call it Toontown because it's a bunch of kind of fake indoor buildings at our headquarters in Audubon, Pennsylvania, where we can bring crews in and we can train them like on the job, where they're painting and repainting, kind of fake facades indoors year
What?
round.
So
Yeah,
the
it's really cool.
crew, like your
Fun.
crews that work for you go
Yeah.
there? Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
we offer we have, bilingual, like, EPA certification we're having this Friday. So we have safety, that's also important as well. We have OSHA 10 training, EPA, safety training, ladder safety training, um, and a lot of hands-on training that happens in headquarters, as well as we have sales training that takes place there. We train our production managers, so as our crews are on the site, we have a production person who's there physically present at the site every day, ensuring that the scope of work in the contract is what's being done, ensuring the customer's happy, that kind of thing. So, but there is a lot of training that goes into that. We have something called the Certainty Service System, where it's a whole series of events that should be taking place that do take place at every job. Things like the first 10 minutes with the customer, and at the end of the job, it's a pride walk. And so there's training on that whole process and how we want to kind of lay things out to our customers. So that's another great one. And there's just also a lot of on-demand training. We have a website, Certa Central. There's all kinds of trainings that are online that you can go in and select from, whatever you'd like.
Wow.
So, it
Wow.
yeah,
So, okay, so fantastic training. And again, it goes back to like the technicalities of painting, especially commercial,
yeah,
where it's not just like I've got a ladder and I've got a brush and I'm gonna go paint or I'm do
yeah,
some fixed ads. Like there's a lot behind it. Um, let's go into
absolutely.
the support. You mentioned a proprietary technology, so I'd love to hear about that. And then I don't know, coaching or whatever other kind of like support mechanisms you get from the franchise.
Right. So there are, our CRM, um, is terrific. It is, it's top notch in that it gives our estimators the tools they need to really come up with accurate estimates, right? So our software, it needs to be the type of software so it's all on an iPad so that when I have a residential estimator going into a home, that person's able to look at something like a labor rate and a spread rate for the paint and, the number of rooms. Trim is very important. Doors, door frames, window frames. If there's wainscoting, if there's crown molding, baseboards, closets, right? So it lets you account for everything accurately in that home, to ensure that your paint costs, your labor costs, are all accurate. And we like to present proposals to our customers on the spot with a lot of detail in those proposals so that they know immediately, what the price is and what the scope is, what's covered. It's a little bit more complex on the commercial side where, we could be doing a two or $300,000 job painting, an entire brand new, apartment complex. And, in that case, it can be a little bit more detailed in terms of like what is the exact paint and what is the exact price for that type of paint that we need to use. But those tools, right? So we use Microsoft as the platform. It gets modified for the estimating application that we use. That's really really beneficial to all of our estimators or sales folks, even our production folks, and scheduling is a big deal for us too. Just getting the right crew on the right job and making sure everybody's showing up. So there's a whole tool, a whole platform for all of that estimating, sales, scheduling, production. It's
Yeah,
just
that
an
technology is
it,
so important, right? Because if you didn't have that, think about how much just like how
yeah,
much more training you would have to do for your
yeah,
sales, your estimators, because you'd have to like take all of that knowledge and somehow put it into their head, right? And you guys
yeah,
just have the tech that does it. So that's very cool.
yeah. It would be very, very difficult to do that. I mean, pretty much next to impossible. So,
Yeah. Wow.
yeah.
Okay. And then what about coaching? So how does the business coaching work within CertaPro?
So every franchise is assigned a GM. That GM can coach you as much or as little as you would like. The one thing I do like about this franchise is it's not just focused on revenue, right? So royalty dollars are all, they are a percentage of revenue, but our franchisor wants to see us profitable on the bottom line as well, right? Because that's how we stay in business. That's how we continue. That's how we grow. That's how we grow the top line. So I would say there's a very big focus on that by corporate, which is e- exactly what you want to have moving
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah. And what's nice too about CertaPro is there's like so many big franchisees. So it's not like, oh, I want to do $5 million and there's no coach that knows what a $5 million business looks like. Like CertaPro has been
Exactly.
around long enough that, there's tons of people who are doing way more than that. I shouldn't say tons, but I've spoken to I think the Houston guy, spoken to a couple guys, and it's like,
Okay.
you know, most franchises don't have any franchisees even close to that. And we'll get to what you're
Yes.
doing, which is really exciting.
It is.
But
And I mean, our GMs will have maybe 20 to 25 franchises on their roster, and it varies. The larger ones don't need as much support as the smaller ones. But the support that you ask for and need is absolutely the support that you get.
okay, very
Things,
cool.
right. Yep, for sure.
And then can you walk us through like we kind of understand the franchise, what it does, and the support systems. So I think next is like what does the day of an owner look like? Like what are you and your husband doing? Like what you guys do 10 years ago, and what are you doing now?
Mhm. So for me, I would say a lot of what I do right now is solve problems.
Yeah.
I spend, I feel like I'm the chief problem solver of all, right? So over the years, I've stepped into different roles. I've stepped into a sales role. I've been in the field checking on jobs. I've done that role. I'm a CPA by nature, so I understand all of the finance and accounting that happens here. Although it did take me time, I had to learn all of that. So I would say over the course of the last 6 years, I mean, not to a detailed degree, but to a maybe 2 or 3 months degree, every role in the company. And when that happens, that's when folks are all coming to you saying, you know, what do I do? This customer's unhappy. You know, do we go back? How do we help them? Um, and I would say that's kind of the day in my life because I would say sort of oversee sales, operations, and finance. So I'm kind of in sort of like a GM type of a role. Um, Martin, I would say his day to day is really meeting with his team and making sure his sales folks are meeting their goals, making sure he's meeting his sales goals, spending time with customers, interacting with customers, and ensuring that all his sales folks are interacting with customers as well. We have a residential marketing associate, so that person is responsible for our marketing strategy, ensuring that all of the tactics that we're working on are kind of coming together. Um, and Martin's also kind of managing that person, making sure that we're going the right way in terms of leads. We want to make sure potential customers are picking up the phone and saying, please come over to our house, give us an estimate. Same thing with commercial. Please come to this, you know, uh, development. There's an HOA that manages this entire development and give us a quote to paint all the garage doors and the front doors and the trim.
Mm.
Right. So for him, it's, I think, working on relationships with potential customers and trying to develop those relationships. Also, just developing relationships with his team and ensure his team is meeting goals.
Yeah, so he's like in charge of revenue generation,
Yeah.
you're in charge of running things.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I need to make sure we're meeting not just our sales goal, but also our expense goals and, our bottom line goals. So our cash, a lot of what I do is manage cash. So we tend to have to really front a lot of cash when you're landing a
Yeah.
$300,000 project. Yeah, a lot of, we try to minimize as much as we can with things like deposits, but often we're paying our crews before we're getting paid by our customers. A lot of our customers have 30 to 60-day terms. And on a large project, you're floating a fair amount of cash. So there's
Yeah.
that whole, cash management side of things as well. So, and I do all of that also. So,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
such a good point. I always
Mhm.
associate that with, like, insurance, like restoration, because insurance doesn't pay for
Yeah.
same thing, like 60 days. But
Mhm.
I guess anytime you're doing a commercial job, especially a big commercial job, it's the same thing.
It is.
Yeah,
Absolutely is.
very
You're
interesting.
purchasing paint. Yeah, I mean, occasionally we're purchasing paint, we're paying our crews, we're purchasing supplies, right? Occasionally we will do like carpentry work. Occasionally we'll do flooring, epoxy floors, which is sort of like a coating. That material is very expensive. So all of that is purchased well in advance of when we get paid.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
yeah, there's
Okay.
management. Mhm.
Um, and then, like, in terms of, like, hours, are you able to take
Mhm.
vacations? Like, how are you managing your time?
Oh, absolutely. I think of what I had to do when I worked for Merck and when I was in the corporate world, there was zero flexibility, zero. And I had to travel on their travel schedule. So, you can go to your kids' games. You can make your own schedule. You can travel. I will say anytime you own your own business, there's a certain pull that you feel that is a little bit different than when you're working in the corporate world. But at the same time, you don't have to miss anything. You can be at every game. You can be, at every event, and you can work around it. You can work later, work on the weekend, work at night. So there's a lot of flexibility that I
Yeah,
love.
very cool. So you're still putting in the hours, but it's very flexible is what it sounds like.
Extremely, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
And
very
I mean,
cool.
anytime, yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and then, maybe take us through, like, you say you have a marketing person, you have a sales team, you have 100 painters. Um,
Mhm.
like, could you take us, like, just through the growth? And you can use, revenue numbers if you want. Like, what was the first 5 years like? What was the second 5? Like, what were, or maybe there were phases that make more sense. But yeah, just, like, how did you get to where you are today?
So I think really eh, we started it out managing the residential and the commercial sides of the business separately. So we had a commercial leader, we had a residential leader, and then we had commercial salespeople, we had residential salespeople, we had commercial production, residential production. And for many years, those were split. Um, I think I would say for the first 15 years, they were split. When I came on board, one of the things I did was I did away with that. And I said, we need to have one sales group. Now, granted, it did kind of fit us because we had, Martin, who was a natural sales leader. But I said, we're also working with the book traction and, EOS. We need a sales and marketing organization. We need an operations group and we need a finance group. And
Mhm.
I think that gave us synergies and it focused talent, if you will, in the sales and marketing division the way it should, because there's a very different type of person that needs to be selling, right?
Yeah.
Very, very
Yeah.
different than it. Yeah.
So you kinda reorganized it, and I guess you're, like, the integrator, and Martin's, like, the visionary, and
Yeah.
you've yep, okay, yeah, so if
Yeah.
you haven't
Yeah.
read the
Yeah.
book, right, whoever's listening, Traction, I've got it actually
Yeah.
next to me on my desk here. Um,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you should
So I think,
100%
yeah.
read that.
Yeah. I think that was the biggest step change. And it actually took about 15 years for that to happen in a
Yeah,
company. And it also was, I think, kind of forced by when I came in. For a while, I was running residential and Martin was running commercial. And there was like true growth couldn't really happen with that split. And at the time, it was like how, because every franchisee in the country is split pretty much between residential and commercial. We are the exception at CertaPro with how we've split it up. But it's worked well. And it's
Yeah.
really, a lot of it is, you got to hire the right people. It takes a long time to get the right team in place. And, you go through a lot of people till you get to the right people. And it can take a while. It can take years. And I
Yeah.
do feel like our team now is a perfect team. We're perfectly balanced. Everybody works hard. We have fun together. I mean, it's an amazing team. We're only as good as our people. And as
Yep.
we've found better and better people, that is, I really feel like, how we accelerate it.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, it sounds great. And I think you hear that all the time is at some point, and hopefully it's sooner rather than later, the owner shouldn't be doing things. So it comes down
Oh, yeah.
to who, right? They say who, not how, right? Um,
Yes.
so
Yes.
okay. And then what was your revenue when you came on board? You said you doubled in 2 years, and then kind of like where have you grown to today?
Mhm. Yeah. So when I came on board, we were right around 3.8 million total in revenue. And that was in 2020. This year, we're estimating our revenue to be $8 million.
I'm sorry, how much?
8 million.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
unbelievable. Yeah,
Last year, yeah, in 2025, we landed 6.9 million. So we were just short of 7.
yeah,
And we're projecting a lot of growth this year. So I will say, for as far as where we fall in the country, so we are top 15 in, if there are about 330 franchisees around the country, uh the 8 million is pretty high.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
very high.
So
For
yeah.
any business, I think if you look at the percentage of businesses that hit like $1 million in America, it's like 10% or something, and then just like drops off the bigger you get. So,
Yeah.
very cool. Okay. Um, and then what are your goals? So like where are you hoping to get? Is there ever gonna be a place where you just like put a manager in place and you're like, we're good, or like what does the future look like for you?
That we are never just putting a, no, no, we don't put a manager place and say we're good. In 3 years, we want to be 10 million. And between 5 and 10 years from now, I would say 20 million.
Wow. Wow. So like
So
very consistent. That's like, I don't know, just off it's like 20 to 30% growth a year is kind of what you're shooting for.
yeah, a
Yeah,
little bit,
that's
little bit,
amazing. The
little
fact
bit
that
less, a little less than that,
a
a
little
little less
less.
than percent. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
So
I'm a sales guy. I'm not a math major, right?
no,
Uh
that's okay.
but still it's
So
high growth, right? Like companies of that
yes.
size usually grow in like single digits, mid to low single digits. So you're certainly beating the market. Um, that's
Hmm.
awesome.
Yeah,
Okay. And then what do you think is gonna be like the key to get you from where you are now to there?
people,
Mhm.
100% people, getting the right people in the right seats, making the right hires. Um, I do think the way this market is evolving is it very much used to be a market where our biggest challenge was finding painters. I think there's more competition entering the market, and now our biggest challenge is finding leads and making sure that when a customer or a potential customer wants a paint job, they think of CertaPro and they call us to come get them, give them an estimate. So it's now the constraint, if you will, is getting the lead. It's not finding the crew to do the work. So it's evolving much more so into a sales and marketing uh, franchise, and that's what we have to focus on is selling, marketing, and
Yeah.
selling, and
Is
at the
that
same time, of course, maintaining quality. But mhm.
is that
Go ahead.
nationwide, or is that something you think that's unique to you all?
Yeah, I think that's nationwide. I think
Interesting.
the tide has changed. There's more competition out there for sure. I think when we first started franchising, there were no professional painting companies. They didn't exist. So I think the whole idea of a professional painting company has been on the rise for sure. And because of that, it's the focus has become more sales and marketing. So yeah,
Yeah.
for yeah,
Is the franchisor kinda realizing that and
yes,
yeah,
they are. It's been a little bit of a struggle, but they do see it. They definitely recognize it. and they are working on a paradigm shift for sure. I think we were all working on it together. So it's something that is now on their radar, and I think they're making sure that we've defined who we are well.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
what about, let's say I'm looking at CertaPro. There's no CertaPro in my area, right?
Mhm.
Would you still say now that even though there's all this increase in competition, now is still a good time to be a new CertaPro franchisee?
Oh, absolutely. We have franchisees that once a month. We bring in potential franchisees that we call Meet the Team. The majority of them are looking for resales. So a lot of folks who come in are looking to buy an existing franchise. So they're definitely in high demand. Um, that's become more so the case where you're looking to buy a resale than buying it like an unoccupied territory. If you look on a map, the whole New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania area, that's all taken.
Yeah.
So all of the, higher household income zip codes, higher home value zip codes, those are all they're much harder to come by.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I guess,
so
I mean, you could kinda get, like, the bad part of town and just work on commercial. You could do it
you do
anywhere.
you absolutely could. You can do commercial from anywhere.
Yeah.
I think you have
Interesting.
to be more willing to drive, willing to
Yeah.
travel, of course. But yeah, for sure. For sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then let's talk now kinda like experiential. What stands out for you as, like, major challenges, 1 or 2 that you've had, and how'd you overcome that?
Um, I will say working with your spouse is not always easy. That is certainly a challenge for Martin and I as partners in business. Um, we do it well. It took a little, for sure, some growing pains to get here, but I think the way we've structured the organization has helped a lot. But it is that is definitely a challenge, and I know not every franchisee is working with their spouse, but in my, particular situation, I think that has been a big challenge. Um, I would
Did you
say
did EOS help with
Mhm.
that? Like, kind of defining your role and his role and kinda keeping those separated, or is that something that was more like a personal communication that helped?
We actually wrote it down. We took the time to just really have a couple meetings with each other because you have to kind of figure out a cadence. And even if it weren't husband and wife, it's sort of it's like two very important roles in the company. And Martin likes to call me 5 times a day. And I am not always free 5 times a day to pick the phone up. So, and sometimes I'm calling him a lot too. It's not always one way or the other, but, it's like, okay, well, we need to just when we wanna tell something to that person, we write it down, and then we try at the end of the day to kinda go through a list instead of constantly calling and picking up the phone. So, um, I would say a challenge, but we've done well with it. Um, I mean, I think the only other real challenge is to ensure that you're hiring the right people, that you're hiring people that fit, and that those people have a growth mindset and they want to do what you do with the company, which is to just, you know, grow it. So, for sure, that is a big challenge, making sure that we hire the right folks. And again, our team right now is awesome. I think we've done well at that, but it's always kind of looming out there because when you say to yourself, "I'm going to be 20 million," well, I got to hire two more commercial sales associates at least if I want to get there. So we
Yeah.
got to be thinking of ahead, and those folks are very difficult to find and retain because there's a very specialized set of skills that you need in that
Yeah. Yeah.
commercial world. You need somebody who's willing to build a long-term relationship and nurture a long-term relationship, and those folks they're tougher to find. So
Yeah. You
we've
almost
got
have
some
to be
great
like,
we've got some great ones. We have some terrific ones for sure. But
yeah, I bet you probably those guys also wanna build relationships about who they're gonna hire. So you probably are looking for them now to start talking to them to hire
yeah,
them in 6 months or something.
exactly. For sure.
Yeah. Wow.
For
Okay.
sure.
And what are the best parts of the business? What do you enjoy the most?
I really enjoy getting to work with the people who I like and getting to hire people I like, getting to hire team players who are just great people and who I like just to be around all the time. I found that in the corporate world, it was very competitive. It was, everyone really kind of put themselves before the team. And in our company, nobody does that. Everybody puts the team first. And it's the type of team where, like, somebody can say, "Hey, I made a mistake." And it's okay. We learn from our mistakes, we move on. I say the same. I have to say when I make a mistake, right? So it goes both ways. We want our folks to say, "Hey, that idea is better than my idea. Let's go do it."
Mhm.
And e- everyone on this team is willing to do that. They want the best idea to work. It doesn't have to be their idea. It has to be the best idea for the team. So I think fostering sort of that trust is it's really vulnerability based trust. And when you do that, you create happy people, right? And that's who I want to be around. So
Yeah, I mean, that's a
it's
testament too to the culture, right, that you've
yeah,
built, because you can take people who might do that, and if you don't have the right culture, it goes away. So,
it
to be able
does.
to sustain that's it's not easy. So that's really cool. You've done that.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
okay. And then, let's say, you're talking to someone because a lot of people listening to this are in corporate and they're
Mhm.
thinking about starting, like, from scratch, right? Like what you all did 20 years ago. Um, I guess what are advice, one for, like, determining if it's a good franchise, but even before that too is determining if they're the right person that should go and own a franchise, run a franchise.
So I think 80 to 90% of people will be happier owning a franchise than they will in the corporate world. That's just my own opinion. I do think there are a lot of folks in the corporate world who are just it's drudgery, you know. They're collecting a paycheck and they're just stressed and not all that happy. So I think it goes back to developing a culture of trust and bringing people in who are willing to be vulnerable and at the same time confident in their ideas and what they think. So, and being around that type of person versus being around a person that's kind of you're stepping over all the time, it just makes a huge difference in your life and your happiness. Now, the other thing I'd say is that it's a big risk, right? So it's very hard mentally. It's a very hard mental shift. When I was working for Merck, right? Like when I started at Merck, America's most admired corporation 7 years in a row.
Oh,
It was, Mother Merck took care of your health care, paid you super well. At the time, I thought there was nothing else out there. How could there be anything better, right? And there is. And it's hard to see when you're in there because you don't really believe a lot of the folks who are saying it, but it is way better. And I do think the reason I loved franchising so much is because I had always been a dream to start a business for me, but I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to sell. I didn't know what to, I'm like, what am I good at? I don't know. And, you know, I'm so logic based. I'll sit there and say, hey, there's a 95% chance I'm going to fail. Why would I do this? So I think franchising, or at least this one it gave us a lot of security. It gave us hope that it would succeed. And statistically, it had an 85% chance of succeeding, which was fabulous. Right. So all of that was, I think, helped in sort of a mental shift. But I would definitely say folks should consider just lifestyle overall. And another important thing is the cost of entry. So this franchise had a low cost of entry. There was no building, right? I was looking at Seven Brew. Well, I went to Seven Brew the other day. Amazing coffee. I don't know if you have them in Denver or not. So, but I was looking at the cost of entry and just the building alone because they have like that really cool building. It's like $1 million.
Yeah.
So, so you are for certain franchises, you're buying a building, you're in a storefront and you're managing a storefront. So you don't always have the flexibility that you have like at CertaPro. We don't have a storefront per se. I mean, we have an office, but there's no huge ties. We ended up buying a building, renting it to ourselves, which was more of a real estate investment than a franchise investment. And it turns out to be a great thing, and that was over time. That was not when we initially invested, but the initial investment was very reasonable.
Mhm.
And 20 years ago, that was really one of the reasons we did it. I will say a bigger sized franchise is definitely more expensive now. If you're looking to buy an $8 million franchise, it's not going to be as low as it was, 20 years ago.
Sure.
It is a little bit different,
Yeah.
but
I mean,
overall,
as far as franchises
mhm,
go, CertaPro is still very low cost.
it is
Yeah,
for
unless you're
sure.
buying one, I guess. As you said, they're mostly resales, in which case, you're gonna be buying the
Yes.
business. So,
Right, right. Or if you're trying, if you find one where, like a lot of times we have an owner who's not really scaled it, it's very scalable, but they just haven't done it. So
yeah,
those are good ones to consider for sure, where there's there are zip codes that have good income levels in them still. But for whatever reason, an owner got sick. He or she just didn't kind of run it the way it should be run, or we see it to kind of pass to a son or a daughter who isn't maybe experienced or you know not able to really make it successful. So
yeah, yeah. It's a hard business. You'll have done very well, but like if you treat this as a semi-retirement, it's just not gonna work. You know,
yeah.
which sometimes I see people think franchising is like their second act, and it's not. This is just as much, especially at the beginning. It's just as much
Oh yeah.
time and energy as any job. Um,
Oh, absolutely, if not more. And initially, initially it's very hard. So for the beginning is very, very hard. Getting it off the ground, you're spending a lot of money and you're profitable right away. It takes some time.
what? Sorry, you switched over to my headphones. I totally missed that.
Oh, I did?
I don't know why that happened. You were on my speakers, and now for some reason it's coming through. Um, that is weird. Let me switch it back. Okay, can you say it
Okay.
again?
Hi. How's
Yeah,
that?
that's. I don't know why I just did that. Well, I'm sorry. Could you say that again?
Oh, sure. I think what was I saying?
About I
Well,
said the last thing I
well,
said was it takes it's takes just as much
oh,
time and energy to run the business as having a job.
oh, to get it off the ground, it takes even more
Yeah,
energy than it would a regular job. I mean, you have to consider so many things in the beginning that you would not even think of, right?
sure.
You gotta hire painters, you gotta figure out how to sell, you gotta have to figure out how to use the estimating tools. You're setting up an office, you're setting up QuickBooks, you're setting up payroll. I mean, it is just it was and I wasn't the one that came in and did all that. My husband did that, and I, again, was working for work at the time, but I fortunately was able to support us during that transition for him, which kind of made things nice. But it was like he'll say, I could never do that now. He'll say,
Yeah.
oh, I'm too old. I don't want to. I did that once 20 years ago, and now I'm done. So yeah, he'll say, getting it off the ground is a big deal. It's a lot of work.
It's a lot
Yeah,
of work. Yeah. Even, Tippy Toes, right? It's a mobile kids dance company, and, you could
yeah,
treat it like it's just fun and, have a business that doesn't make that much money or and treat it like a business, and it's, you know, a lot of work.
oh yeah.
Um,
It is. It is. It's a
so,
lot of work.
yeah. Okay, but I
Yeah.
mean, it's worth it, right? Like,
Oh, it's worth it 100 times over. It's a lot of fun.
yeah.
It's a lot of work, but
Especially if
it's a lot
you
of
I
fun.
think you have to be the kind of person that takes satisfaction in knowing that, like, like I built this. Like this didn't exist. We have 450 kids who weren't dancing at all that are now dancing because of the work mostly my wife, but like, I think I helped too, right? That
Right.
we did. So
I think of it the same way, really, for sure. Like, we employ a lot of people. We've given them terrific incomes and experiences and that they would have never had in other places. We take our company on a cruise every year.
oh,
Y-
cool.
we had we had folks who had never been on a plane. We had people were experiencing this for the first time and they just loved it. So it's very cool to see that happen. And I do think you have a sense of responsibility to them,
Uh,
and you've created something more bigger than just painting. You've created jobs and livelihoods.
Yep,
You know,
yep.
so
And
yeah,
the way that it sounds is like they enjoy being there, right? Um, which is
yeah,
like, I don't know, more than a job, right? People can go to jobs and if they hate it or they don't, or they're not at least enthusiastic about it, um, it's just drudgery. It makes your life so much worse. You spend a third of your day at work that you want something that you're excited about, right? And so it's cool that you've created
it's
that.
so short.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Cool.
yeah,
Well, those are all the questions I had. Do you have any takeaway for the people who will be listening to this? Again, they're all people typically who are considering franchising, maybe even considering CertaPro. Um, what would you kind of tell that kind of person?
I would say go for it. It's gonna change your life in wonderful ways that you probably never imagined would be the case, but it is. And go for it. That's the biggest piece of advice I could say is you will love it. You have a sense of security if owning your own business is something you've always wanted to do, and you just don't know what you know you're good at. This is a great way to do it. Is a great way to do it. And there's a lot of similarities with running a company, whether you're running a painting company or if you're purchasing a Seven Brew or a Dunkin' Donuts. It's a lot of the same operations, sales, finance boxes that you're filling that you're bringing together as a group. So the concept is the same everywhere, and if that's what you enjoy, you're gonna love it. So yeah.
Awesome. I didn't pay her to say that. I swear. Uh, Susan.
He did not. No. He
I'm Josh Emerson. This is the Tracer Franchising Podcast. If you want to learn more about franchising, go visit tracerfranchising.com. Free resources there, or you can schedule some time to speak with me. We'll find you great franchises that are available where you live that are a great fit for you, maybe even Certipro. Alrighty. Thanks, Susan.
Thank you.